It's estimated 1 in 5 Canadians will experience a form of mental illness in their life. Today, I'm joined by Wade Sorochan, who has had a lifelong struggle with anxiety and depression. But despite his battle, he has developed a new initiative to help raise awareness. So thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you for having me, Carmen.
You might actually recognize Wade's voice. He has had a long and successful career in the radio business. And while you have opened yourself up to many of your listeners over the years, you've kept a few things in. So maybe talk about that.
I think what people will when they hear my name, they think, oh yeah, the guy from radio who was on the Bill and Bill show, the most successful radio talk show in Alberta's history, interviewing some of the biggest celebrities in the world, being the first in the radio industry to use music to enhance a talk show, over 32 years still in the business, very successful. But what they didn't know is that, yes, you're right, I've had a lifelong struggle with anxiety and depression, and I've had 5 major breakdowns over a 20-year period. And the latest one came a year and a half ago, and that's when I realized, when I hit rock bottom, that I couldn't do this on my own anymore. I couldn't hide it anymore. It was debilitating, and it was affecting every area of my life.
And you were saying earlier to me that your wife would hear you on the radio and she wouldn't even recognize your voice. Why is that?
Because I would use up a lot of energy to try to hide it. And in the entertainment business, whether you're radio, television, movie stars, comedians do this often. They talk about their abusive upbringing, but they use jokes to try to, that's their way of healing. I was using radio as a way to try to soothe myself and entertain and get to a level where I was entertaining people and not really dealing with my issues, until I finally realized I couldn't do this anymore. I was using up way too much energy and I was exhausted all the time.
So throughout all of this, and recently you've created a tool to help people like yourself to deal with their mental illness and maybe to take a first step. So tell me about Path. We have it up as well, so we can show everyone what this booklet looks like.
Well, through my treatment a year and a half ago, through my darkest period, I realized that there's a lot of misinformation about mental illness out there and a stigma attached to it. So I created PATH, which is Positive Action for Total Health. It's a practical guide and a presentation that I do when I speak on mental health awareness. But it focuses on mental health as a key component of being totally healthy. There is no health without mental health. And this is just through 3 months of research. I came up with the easiest to understand information about what is anxiety, what is depression, the 2 most common mental illnesses, what to look for, what are the symptoms in yourself, and more importantly in others too, so that we can keep that conversation going. I mean, this is a great day, Bell's Mental Health, Let's Talk Day, but we need to keep that conversation going throughout the year so we can identify those symptoms and help people before it gets to the point where they're secluding themselves and suffering in silence. No one needs to suffer in silence. There is help available. And when I do my presentation and when people read my information in the PATH booklet, and when we start to talk openly about mental health, we start to realize what I call the 4 basic truths about mental illness. And that is, mental illness is not a character weakness. Mental illness is not anyone's fault. They didn't bring it on themselves. You're not alone. 20% of the population, as you mentioned, are suffering, and mental illnesses are treatable. Those 4 basic truths, if people just really grab onto that, then they realize that we should be talking about this as much as we talk about any other illness.
Well, thank you so much for this, Wade. It's important for everyone to know that this is actually available online. It's free, so like Wade said, this is a first step. So for more information about Wade, you can log on to ctvedmonton.ca under news links, and you can tune in tonight at 5 o'clock for a full story on Wade and mental health awareness. Thank you, Wade.
Thank you, Carmen.
Carmen Leibel joins us now with your health, and today is Bell's Let's Talk Day, raising awareness and money for mental health. And a local radio personality you met today, Carmen, is sharing his story after hiding mental health his entire life.
Well, Wade Sorochan has opened up to the public, but he has used radio to distract himself from his own mental suffering. Now he has created a tool to help others take that first step to getting help.
Welcome to Edmonton This Week, your City of Edmonton connection. I'm Wade Sorochan.
It's a place of comfort for Wade Sorochan. He's spent the past 30 years in a studio, but behind the microphone, the seemingly outgoing personality had a secret.
All through those years, I suffered from anxiety and depression.
Sorochan says he didn't get help as he didn't want to admit he had a weakness.
I did not want to be known as someone who had a mental illness or who was, crazy.
But when he had a mental breakdown and hit rock bottom, he knew change had to happen.
It's a miracle I'm alive today.
Aside from medication and therapy, Sorochan has chosen another outlet to cope, helping others. He created a guide called Path, which he hopes people will use as a first step to getting help.
What signs should I look for? What are the symptoms? How do I help someone who is suffering? How do I help myself?
Judith Mason, a manager of addiction and mental health, says Sorochan's efforts do help reduce stigma.
And provides an example for others to feel more comfort, more acceptance of this as being a health concern.
Mason says the first step in getting help is crucial and adds people should contact their family doctor.
And should be the one who's able to support that individual as well in acquiring what resources may be helpful in the community.
Sorochan has created what he calls the 4 basic truths, saying mental illnesses aren't a character weakness, not your fault, you're not alone, and mental illnesses are treatable. Sorochan says he has spent his life suffering, but adds he doesn't plan on spending any more time living that way.
I've lived with this long enough. I may have had a lousy beginning, but I'm choosing to have a great finish.
And if you would like a free copy of Wade Sorochan's mental health guide, you can log on to ctvedmonton.ca and click on news links.